One of the most important differences between how men and women experience relationships lies in how they communicate emotions. And this difference isn't based on preference, it's rooted in how we're wired from an early age. As men, most of us are taught that communication is about clarity. We're rewarded for being direct, logical, and concise. If we're upset, we're expected to say it plainly. If we want something, we ask for it. And if we don't like something, we make it known with firm words or action. That's how many of us were raised to navigate the world, with straight lines and clear answers. But for many women, emotional communication doesn't follow that same path. Their language is less about what's said directly and more about what's felt underneath. What a woman says can often carry layers, meaning she might express one thing verbally, while something far more vulnerable is sitting just beneath the surface. A simple, "I'm okay," might not mean she's fine. It might mean she feels disappointed or disconnected or even hurt, but isn't sure how to open up safely. When she says, "I just wanted to share something," she may not just be making conversation, she could be reaching out, emotionally, hoping you'll pick up on her need for closeness, not advice. And then there's silence. Many men are uncomfortable with it. We interpret silence as either nothing being wrong or the absence of communication entirely. But for a woman, silence can be the loudest message of all. It might mean she's testing the emotional space between you. It might mean she's trying to see if you'll notice something has shifted, if you're present enough to sense the change in her energy. And often, when that silence comes after a deep moment, it's a pause filled with feeling. She's not just quiet. She's waiting to see if you will lean in with awareness instead of brushing past it. Emotional language, true emotional language, isn't linear. It doesn't move in bullet points or clear-cut lines. It flows like water, sometimes soft, sometimes heavy, sometimes pulling back to protect itself, and sometimes pouring out when it feels safe. You can't measure it the same way you measure logic. You have to feel it. You have to become attuned to what's being said with the eyes, the tone, the breath, and even the hesitation. You have to notice what's not being said just as much as what is. The truth is, most women are not looking for a man who can fix every problem or solve every emotional puzzle. They're looking for a man who is aware, a man who knows when to listen fully, when to ask gently, and when to simply be still and allow her to express without interruption. You don't have to interpret every word perfectly, but you do need to show her that you're engaged, that you see her not just as someone talking, but as someone feeling. Emotional intelligence in a man is one of the most powerful signals of safety a woman can experience. Because when she knows she's being heard on more than just the surface level, she opens more, she softens, she connects, she trusts. And that trust leads to the kind of bond most people spend their whole lives chasing. So, the next time you're talking to a woman you care about, pause. Don't just listen to her words. Listen to her energy. Watch her expression. Feel her pauses. If you can begin to understand the emotional language she speaks without needing to translate it into logic or break it down into data, you will unlock a deeper level of intimacy. She won't have to explain herself. She'll just feel understood. And that, more than any compliment or grand gesture, is what makes her feel safe to love. Vulnerability means trust. There are certain moments in a conversation with a woman that carry more emotional weight than anything she could say directly about love or commitment. And one of the most powerful of those moments begins with a simple, quiet phrase. I've never told anyone this before. At first, it may sound like just another line in a longer story. But if you understand human connection, truly understand it, you'll recognize that this is not just her sharing information. This is her opening the door to something sacred. She's offering you a part of her emotional world that most people never get to see. And when a woman does that, it's never random, it's never casual, it's always intentional, even if she doesn't say so out loud. When a woman tells you something she's kept hidden, maybe a memory from her childhood, a struggle in her family, an insecurity she's carried in silence, or a moment in her life where she felt ashamed or afraid, she's not doing it because she needs to unload. She's doing it because something in your presence made her feel safe enough to be seen. That kind of emotional exposure is not easy. It doesn't come quickly, and it's never about the content of what she's saying. It's about the emotional weight behind the words. She's saying, here is a part of me I usually protect, but I trust you enough to let you hold it, even for just a moment. Think about that. In a world where so many people live guarded, where we're taught to be strong by being silent, where vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, what does it mean when someone chooses to be open with you? It means she doesn't just see you as a man she enjoys spending time with. She sees you as someone worthy of her truth, someone who won't run, someone who won't misuse that honesty, someone who won't judge her for the parts of her story that still hurt to talk about. And here's where many men make a mistake, not because they have bad intentions, but because they've never been taught how to respond. When a woman opens up emotionally, some men immediately try to fix the problem. They jump into solution mode. Others get uncomfortable and try to change the subject, or worse, downplay what she's shared to avoid the heaviness of the moment. Both responses, though often unintentional, send a message to her nervous system. This isn't a safe place for my truth. What she needs in that moment is not your analysis, not your advice, not your opinion. She needs your presence. She needs your stillness. She needs your ability to hold emotional space without needing to change what's happening. That means listening without interrupting, holding eye contact without trying to look away, letting her story breathe even if it makes you uncomfortable. And when she's finished, responding with something as simple and powerful as, "Thank you for telling me that." Those 6 words can build more trust than an hour of compliments or an entire evening of charm. Because trust isn't built by what you say, it's built by how you make her feel. And if she feels emotionally safe with you, if she senses that her truth is not too much, not too messy, not too inconvenient, she will begin to connect with you on a level that most men will never reach. You'll become more than just someone she enjoys. You'll become someone she relies on emotionally, someone she looks forward to talking to when the world feels overwhelming. This level of connection isn't just about intimacy or romance. It's about being a refuge in a world that often asks women to stay guarded. When you create a space where she can take off that emotional armor, even for a few minutes, you become irreplaceable. And the beauty of it is this: you don't need to say the perfect thing. You don't need a script. You just need to be steady, grounded, and fully there. So, the next time a woman says, "I don't usually talk about this," or "I've never told anyone this before," don't just hear the words, hear what's behind them. That is vulnerability. That is trust. That is a moment that matters more than you know. And what you do next, how you respond, will determine whether she walks away feeling emotionally exposed or emotionally held. And if she feels held, she'll open even more. She'll bond deeper. And she'll see you not just as a man, but as her man. Guidance is respect. There's a moment in many relationships that often gets overlooked or misunderstood. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic pauses. It's usually wrapped in a simple question. What do you think I should do? At first glance, it may sound like she's asking for advice. But what she's truly asking for is much deeper. When a woman asks for your opinion, especially about something meaningful or emotionally sensitive, she isn't just trying to make a decision. She's opening a door to her inner world. That question is less about the situation and more about you. She wants to see if your presence brings peace or pressure. She wants to feel whether your mind is clear and stable, or distracted and chaotic. It's not a test of intelligence, it's a reflection of trust. Most women don't offer that kind of access easily. Think about how you make your own decisions. When something is really personal or difficult, you don't turn to just anyone. You look for someone who understands you, someone who listens well, someone who makes you feel steady, not swayed. A woman is no different. When she invites you into her decision-making process, she's not treating you like a fixer or a problem solver. She's treating you like a partner, someone she respects, someone whose input matters, someone who brings a sense of emotional order into her uncertainty. And this is where so many men miss the opportunity to connect on a deeper level. The moment she asks, "What do you think I should do?" many men jump straight into solution mode. They start listing steps, pointing out logic, offering advice like a manager holding a checklist. It's not that their intentions are bad, it's that they're not listening to what's really being asked. Because often she doesn't need a solution. She needs presence. She needs to talk it out, to feel emotionally supported, while she sorts through her own thoughts. She doesn't want to be told what to do. She wants to feel like she's not carrying the weight of that decision alone. Being the kind of man who can hold space for her without taking over is a rare and powerful skill. It means being calm when she's anxious. It means being centered when she feels overwhelmed. It means not jumping to conclusions or pressing your agenda, but instead asking thoughtful questions like, what outcome feels right for you? Or, what's holding you back? This kind of response invites her deeper into her own clarity while showing her that you are present, engaged, and emotionally grounded. You're not trying to lead her, you're trying to walk with her. When you respond this way, something subtle but incredibly meaningful happens in her mind. She begins to associate your presence with peace, not because you fixed the issue, but because you showed her that she's not alone in it. You didn't tell her what to do. You helped her remember her own strength. You stood beside her, not above her. And in doing so, you showed her that your presence isn't just romantic. It's stabilizing. It's mature. It's safe. Over time, this changes the way she sees you completely. You're no longer just someone who's fun to date or interesting to talk to. You become someone she can rely on emotionally, someone she can build with, someone whose presence she'll seek, not out of desperation, but out of deep respect. And that kind of bond doesn't fade easily. It grows stronger every time she sees that she can count on you, not just to react, but to respond with wisdom, calm, and care. So, the next time she brings you into a moment of emotional vulnerability and asks what you think, don't rush. Slow down. Don't see it as a problem to solve. See it as an opportunity to connect. Show her through your stillness and clarity that her heart is safe with you. Not because you have all the answers, but because you listen well enough to help her find her own. Emotional anchoring through memory. There's a beautiful and often overlooked shift that happens in a relationship when you start to live in a woman's mind. Not because you're present physically, but because she carries your emotional imprint with her, even in the quiet spaces of her day. It usually doesn't begin with a grand gesture. It doesn't always involve a romantic confession. In fact, it often begins subtly, with a simple sentence like, I thought about you when I saw this, or this reminded me of something you said. These words might sound casual at first, but make no mistake, they're incredibly significant. Because what she's really saying is this: you're in my internal world now. You've taken root in my memory, in my emotions, in how I process life. This is what psychologists refer to as emotional anchoring. It's when someone begins to associate their emotional experiences with another person, meaning you're no longer just someone she interacts with in real time. You become part of how she interprets the world. Maybe it's a song that plays in a cafe and it brings back something you once shared. Maybe it's a line from a book, a smell, a piece of advice you gave, or even a place she passes on her way to work. When those small moments begin to carry your name in her thoughts, she's forming emotional links. She's not just remembering you. She's building a web of connection that deepens every time she attaches a new moment to your presence. This kind of connection doesn't happen quickly, and it doesn't happen with everyone. It happens only when a woman begins to feel emotionally safe, seen, and understood. It's a sign that you've left a psychological impression on her, that something about your energy, your words, or your actions made her feel something meaningful. And when she starts to tell you about these moments, she's doing more than making small talk. She's inviting you into a very sacred part of her internal life. She's saying, I'm starting to experience my world with you in it, even when you're not beside me. The mistake many men make is treating these moments as random or insignificant. They hear, this reminded me of you, and they smile, say something polite like, oh, that's cool, and move on. But that's not enough. Because when she shares something like that, she's extending a thread. And if you gently hold that thread and respond with care, if you say something like, that's really sweet, what about it reminded you of me? You allow the thread to grow stronger. You show her that her internal world matters to you. You confirm that this emotional link isn't one-sided, that you're invested in it too. Over time, the more of these threads that connect you, the deeper your bond becomes. She begins to feel that your presence isn't just something that exists when you're together. It's something that follows her, supports her, adds color and depth to her daily life. You become the person she thinks of when she's happy, the one she wants to share a moment with when something makes her laugh, and the one who comes to mind when she needs comfort or calm. That kind of emotional anchoring creates a sense of closeness that no amount of words or physical attraction can replace. It builds emotional intimacy, the glue that keeps people connected long after the surface level excitement fades. So when she says, "I thought about you when," don't just hear it, feel the weight of what she's saying. Recognize the trust she's showing by letting you into her memory, and respond in a way that shows you value it. Ask her what made her think of you. Share something that reminded you of her too. These moments, though small in appearance, are the foundation of something much greater. They're the beginning of an emotional world you're being invited into. A place where she doesn't just enjoy your company, she begins to need it. Advanced signals. Most men miss. In every emotionally charged relationship, there comes a point when words no longer carry the full weight of what someone is feeling, especially for women who've had to protect their hearts, for those who've been misunderstood, hurt, or made to feel unsafe when they were vulnerable. Direct expressions of interest, affection, or emotional attachment aren't always easy to offer. In fact, they often don't say what they feel in plain language, not because they're playing games, but because life has taught them that sometimes being honest with your heart leads to disappointment or pain. So instead, they show it in quieter ways, ways that only a man who is paying attention will notice. The most powerful signs of emotional investment from a woman are almost always the ones most men miss. Not because these men don't care, but because they're conditioned to look for boldness. They're waiting for her to say, "I love you," or "I can't stop thinking about you," or "You're the one I want." But emotional investment doesn't usually arrive with a grand announcement. It shows up in flickers, in the pauses between her sentences, in the moments when her voice softens, just a little, when she's around you, in the subtle hesitation before she opens up, testing the waters of emotional safety. One of the most overlooked signs is a change in her tone when she shares something personal. Not what she says, but how she says it. Maybe her voice becomes slightly more gentle, or she avoids eye contact just a little longer than usual. Maybe she asks you something she already knows the answer to. Not because she's looking for information, but because she wants reassurance that you care enough to respond thoughtfully. These are not random behaviors. They are invitations. Invitations into her world. Invitations into her vulnerability. But they don't come with a flashing neon sign. They come wrapped in subtlety, and they require presence to understand. Consider how she compliments you. She might never say, "I'm falling for you," but she might say, "You have such a calming energy," or "I feel like I can talk to you about anything." These aren't small compliments. These are deeply emotional statements. They suggest that she feels safe in your presence, that your energy doesn't just attract her, it grounds her. And for a woman, especially one who is emotionally intelligent or healing from past wounds, safety is everything. If she says she feels at ease around you, what she's really expressing is trust. Trust in your presence, trust in your energy, trust in your ability to see her without needing to control or change her. Another powerful signal that many men overlook is consistency in her emotional attention. It might be the way she checks in with you, not just out of routine, but because she wants to know how you're doing. It might be how she remembers the small details you've shared, the name of your dog, a tough deadline you mentioned, a personal story you told weeks ago. That level of attention isn't casual, it's rooted in care. And when a woman starts to remember the small things about you, the things most people overlook, it means she's emotionally invested. She's listening. She's storing pieces of you in her mind because those pieces matter to her. You may also notice how her energy shifts when she's around you. It may become softer, more relaxed. She might tease you more or laugh more freely. Her body language might lean in closer, or she may linger a little longer at the end of a conversation. Again, these are not accidents. These are signs of emotional connection. Signs that she's trying, gently and carefully, to let you into her space. Not physically, but emotionally. She's not demanding your attention, but she's hoping you'll notice. And if you're the kind of man who does notice, who sees these subtleties, who treats them as meaningful rather than insignificant, you instantly become different from every other man in her life. But if you miss these moments, if you brush them off, or ignore them, or fail to respond in kind, you may unintentionally send the message that her effort is unseen, that her emotional offerings don't land with you. And when that happens too many times, she may start to withdraw, not out of pettiness, but out of self-protection. Because nothing stings more than showing someone your heart in quiet ways and having them look the other direction. You don't need to be a mind reader. You don't need to overanalyze every word or gesture, but you do need to be present. Present enough to notice when her energy shifts, aware enough to pick up on emotional patterns, confident enough to respond with gentle curiosity instead of rushing past the moment. Ask her what she meant when she said something tender. Tell her you noticed the care in her voice. Mirror her emotional openness with kindness, not skepticism. Because emotional investment doesn't always come with fireworks. It comes in flickers. And the man who can recognize and honor those flickers, he doesn't just win her attention, he earns her trust. And trust is the foundation of love that lasts. How to be the man she stays with. By the time a woman begins to emotionally invest in you, truly invest beyond surface attraction or fleeting interest, the question isn't whether she likes you. It's not even about whether she wants to be with you. The real question becomes, are you capable of receiving her love? Can you handle the weight of her truth? Can you be the kind of man who creates a safe emotional home, not just a romantic connection? Because women don't stay with men simply because of chemistry. They don't stay because you said the right things or made her laugh. They stay with the man who brings them peace. They stay with the man who becomes their emotional anchor, the one they can return to, day after day, and feel understood. A woman's deepest need in a relationship isn't to be entertained. It's to be seen, fully, clearly, deeply, and not just seen in the physical sense, but emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. She wants to know that when she opens up, when she removes her emotional armor, you're not going to flinch. She wants to feel your presence when she's unsure. She wants to see you listening when she shares her pain. And when she breaks down, not because she's weak, but because life has overwhelmed her, she needs to know you won't disappear, that you won't shame her or try to fix her or retreat into silence. She needs to know that you will stay. And you don't have to be perfect to be this man. In fact, trying to be perfect is a barrier. What she needs is not perfection, it's grounding. She's looking for the man who can sit still in the storm, the man whose energy remains calm when emotions rise, the man who can hold her words, even when they carry tears, and still respond with compassion instead of defensiveness. That kind of groundedness doesn't come from pretending to be strong. It comes from emotional maturity. It comes from self-awareness. It comes from doing the work within yourself so that you don't get triggered every time she reveals her feelings. That stillness is what she trusts, because it means she can trust you. And understand this, when a woman senses that she can be her full, raw, complex self around you, without needing to hide, without worrying that she'll be punished for her honesty, everything about how she relates to you changes. She no longer guards her words. She no longer questions whether you care. She no longer wonders if you can handle her. Because now she knows. You don't just tolerate her truth. You welcome it. That is where true intimacy is born, not in passion, not in grand romantic gestures, but in the quiet confidence of knowing, I can be myself here. When she realizes that her emotions don't push you away, that they pull you in, she lets her guard down even more. And in that space, she doesn't just fall in love, she roots herself. She begins to attach in the healthiest, most powerful way. Not from fear of loss, but from the comfort of belonging. She feels safe to evolve, to express, to love without reservation. What's even more beautiful is this. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she doesn't just stay. She gives back in ways that will elevate your entire life. Her nurturing becomes effortless. Her loyalty deepens. Her care becomes consistent. She starts to support your vision, invest in your dreams, and protect your peace. Why? Because you became the one place where her heart could rest. So ask yourself, not, how do I impress her? Or, how do I win her over? But rather, can I hold space for her? Can I meet her emotions with presence, not panic? Can I listen to understand instead of listening to respond? Can I build a relationship where safety is not an exception, but the foundation? Because the truth is, women don't leave because of arguments. They don't walk away because of flaws. They leave because they feel emotionally alone. They leave because their vulnerability becomes a burden instead of being held with honor. But when she feels cherished in her truth, when she feels loved not in spite of her depth, but because of it, she will stay. She will thrive, and she will help you thrive too. Not as a reward, but as a natural outcome of loving someone who sees her soul and stands steady by it. If this video resonated with you, support this channel. It helps us bring more clarity, more guidance, and more healing into the lives of women and men who are still figuring this out. Subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who needs it. If you made it all the way to the end, type unstoppable in the comments. That one word tells me you're not here for games. You're here to grow. And I'll make sure this channel keeps giving you everything you need to become the kind of man this world needs more of.